Medjugorje, May the 13th, 2023. First apparition in Fatima. Dear friends, praise be to Jesus and Mary. On April 25th, 2023, the Visionary Maria received the following monthly message. Dear children, I am calling all of you to be carriers of the peace and joy of the risen Jesus for all those who are far from prayer, that the love of Jesus through your lives may transform them to a new life of conversion and holiness. Thank you for having responded to my call. Madame Sieminska's Rosary. In this month of May, dedicated to Our Lady, let me share with you one of the most beautiful and favorite testimonies that I know of. Don't miss the power of our Heavenly Mother. Adam Chmielowski, at the age of 24, was already a famous painter. He was handsome, young, rich, and a go-getter. In other words, he had everything going for him, as the expression goes. It was the end of the 19th century, and Warsaw high society was snatching up his paintings. His success promised him a brilliant career. Adam was Catholic because of family tradition and lived as an upright, honest man. However, he began to shift toward unwanted and occult practices. Some evenings in Krakow, he liked to join his rich friends who would invite him to sessions where they would use Ouija boards. In their living room, there was a very heavy wooden table that had large metal rods. This was ideal for such activities where people call upon spirits, which respond by having the table make huge leaps as if weighing as light as a feather. Adam was fascinated. However, in a remote and dark corner of the room, someone was suffering. Someone was suffering. That was Mrs. Siemienska, the wife of the Master of Ceremonies. She was a devout Catholic and knew the Bible very well. She also knew how displeasing her husband's activities were to God. Is it not clearly written that this is an abomination before Adonai, the living God? An abomination? The Bible is clear about the evil origin of certain practices. This passage from Deuteronomy says, "When you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not learn to imitate the abominable practices of the nations there. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. Because of these same abominable practices, the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you. You must be blameless before the Lord your God. The nations you will dispossess. Listen to those who practice sorcery and divination, but as for you, the Lord your God has not permitted you to do so." Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 9 to 14. However, she insisted on staying in her corner of the room in order to pray. She knew that God could prevent the arrival of evil spirits and curb their damage in the souls of these misguided people. With her rosary in the hand, she prayed through the decades, begging the Blessed Mother to intervene. But suddenly, the spirits manifested with a vengeance and potency. The heavy table began to turn and spin in the living room. Her blood began to boil. She couldn't take it any longer. Rosary in hand, she jumped up from her chair, walked towards the group of spiritualists, and in an angry gesture, threw her rosary beads on the table. Wide-eyed, dumb with amazement and dumbfounded, Adam watched. Under Madame Siemienska's rosary beads, the heavy, whirling table stopped, dead in its tracks, and broke in two. Adam describes it like this. Then we heard a very loud bang, like a gunshot. Frightened, the spiritualists turned on the light and remained a deathly silence. Adam had just experienced the shock of his life. He stared at the little rosary beads lying near the miserably broken table, like David's meager stone near the inert body of the huge Goliath. He understood. He didn't need any further instruction. In this fight between good and evil, the Blessed Mother defeated Satan with a simple rosary. From then on, his life changed radically. He had no more time to waste. He left his riches, his success, and his unwanted activities. He transformed his art and started painting the face of Christ. He became a servant to the poor. He even went to live among them in the sordid areas of Warsaw, where the villains and thieves all lived. He would tell them the good news of Christ and transform them into disciples. He founded the Order of the Albertines. His example of charity, his miracles, his compassion for the poor, and his folly in the imitation of Christ was so remarkable that he gained another kind of glory, one that was divine and lasting. His compatriot John Paul II canonized him on November the 12th in 1989. Our Lady has said it clearly in Medjugorje. Dear children, even a simple rosary can work miracles in your lives and in the world. On the 25th of January 1991. And what about Mrs. Siemienska? She probably only found out in heaven what fruits her rosary and the suffering offered up to God bore. That day, in the corner of her dark living room, how could she guess that her husband's illustrious friend, this brilliant young Adam, would let himself be defeated by her simple Hail Marys whispered in the secret of her heart, until he became a saint? How could she hope that she would see the power of the Virgin Mary over the forces of evil burst forth before her own eyes? It is this very same power that is offered to all of us through the intercession of Our Lady. In this difficult time, when, as never before, Mary reaches out to us so that we may enter into her maternal embrace, so consoling, so healing, and so soothing. If a child is injured, will it not immediately take refuge in the bosom of its mother? Why would we behave like orphans? The Padre Pio of Naples. Don Dolindo Ruotolo was a devotee of the Blessed Mother and the Rosary. From there came that tenderness which accompanied his incredible strength and his numerous miracles. The Holy Rosary is the harp of the soul, he would say. The grains of the Rosary are strings that touch and vibrate in varied and melodious tones according to the mystery we are contemplating. The Rosary is like the ribbon of a machine gun. Every bead is a shot. Every affection of the soul is like an explosion of faith that terrifies Satan, and Mary crushes his head once again. On May the 13th in 1917 in Fatima, Portugal, Our Lady appeared to 3 little shepherds and gave them some important words. Among them she said, "Pray the Rosary every day to obtain peace for the world and the end of the war." Then she told them about their mission. Jesus wishes to use you to make me known and loved. He wants to establish a devotion to my Immaculate Heart throughout the whole world. At the end of the apparition, the children saw a heart near Mary's right hand, and this heart was surrounded by thorns, cruel thorns piercing it. This apparition speaks loudly for our time and for the weapons we are invited to use for the victory. a beautiful initiative. On April 24th in 2023, for Divine Mercy Sunday, a new place of prayer was born in Medjugorje. At the edge of the small road that winds at the foot of Apparition Hill, not far from the cemetery of Bijakovici, you will find a statue of the Merciful Christ under a large stone vault. You will also see a water fountain, the source of which is about 50 meters below the ground. This water is pure, drinkable, and properly analyzed. Taps have been set up for those who come to pray. This is an open-air place, very simple, blessed and accessible to all, an ideal place of prayer for the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. Spotify, a very practical tool. Don't miss the opportunity to listen to the selection of talks I have given to date, to help us walk together towards the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Dearest Gospa, your motherly arms are always stretched out to those of your children who are furthest from God. How we long to be the extension of your arms. We wish to reach out to those who are waiting in the night of the heart, to finally be able to know your love and that of your Son, Jesus. Sister Emmanuel, and the community of the Beatitudes.
So